This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Judith Mancini Today. It is May 11th, and there's lots going on in the news today. This is part of Making You Wiser. That's what we're talking about most of the show time today, wiser and wealthy, or at least helping you through this really tumultuous time with inflation and all. So, number one is the border and Title 42 ending today, midnight tonight, when it is the 12th. It ends on the 12th at 12:01 Eastern Time. There will be no more Title 42. They're going to try to get it to go back to Title 8, which helps sending people back to their country of origin if they are trying to seek asylum. So we'll have to watch very closely what goes on and what the surge will be in the middle of the night. It's already surging now. They're swimming across, rafting across, everything. Now, look, I'm not against immigration at all. Many times, if you haven't listened to me before, you know I am married to an immigrant from Italy. He came here legally. That's not the problem of these people who really are seeking amnesty from different countries. The problem is that they have been infiltrated by the cartels who are taking advantage of them and sending them over here. They're stealing their money, $4,500 a person or more these days. And they are coming from 160 different countries. And some of them are not our friends. They're adversaries like Yemen and China. So they're interspersed with the people that are trying to come from different South American countries and trying to get here to get away from some of the gangs and all that have taken over in these various countries. But there's a way to do it legally and a way that is not going to steal all of their hard-earned money and their life savings and putting their children in jeopardy as they try to cross in different places across the Rio Grande from Mexico. So let's watch this very closely because it's impacting everybody. It's impacting the entire United States because we just don't have the money to even take care of our homeless people. So we're all concerned about this. I'm concerned about the little children coming. I'm concerned that they may have been infiltrated with cartel members to keep them in line as they're going across. It's a fact that they are raping women and little girls. You can see all of the trash that's piling up on the border from these people that are coming across, and they have wet clothes on them and wet belongings on them and trash. And everything, and it's just dumped once they get on this side, and they change into something dry and proceed to go to many other cities. So as they say on television, we don't just have border cities in California, Arizona, Texas, etc. We now have border crisis all across our country. I heard today that they're going to lift some of the regulations for homeless shelters in New York because they don't have enough room to put the migrants in, the illegal immigrants. So who knows what's going on? I'm concerned about my friends that live down by the border in California, like San Diego and close by Carlsbad and all. There are many, many good people that are trying to do this, but they really need to try to do it in the proper way so that they don't lose all their money and they're not putting themselves in harm's way. So let's watch this closely, as I say. Watch the news, watch it from every perspective. Make up your own mind. We need to have borders. Every country that is sovereign has borders. We're not sovereign anymore because we're being invaded. And who knows what the bad guys are doing to us. And even President Biden admitted the other day that this is very chaotic and he doesn't have a timeline on getting it straightened out. And obviously the border czar, Vice President Harris, has no idea what's going on because if she did, she might be down there looking at what is happening after Title 42 expires. That to me isn't a czar. It's nobody caring for these people or for our country. That's what it is to me. Natalie Holloway, do you remember her? Natalie Holloway was abducted and murdered, apparently. There was never any body discovered, but this was 18 years ago, and she was down in the Caribbean on a graduation trip with a bunch of girlfriends and all, celebrating graduating from high school. She was just 18 at the time, and she went off with the guy she didn't know, who was Vandersloot. Now, this young man who was barely older than her, his father was governor of one of the islands, governor or mayor, I can't remember which one. So I'm sorry, I'm a little shady on this. I haven't heard the full report on it today. But this is a very bad guy, and nobody saw her after she walked out of the casino restaurant bar area down there with him. They're on camera. Never seen or heard from again. Her mother has pursued justice for this case for a long time. Well, after Natalie disappeared, another girl was murdered in Peru because Vandersloot went off. He went crazy. His parents helped him escape and go other places. So he traveled around trying to hide. And he ended up in Peru and he murdered a girl there who was not much older than Natalie had been. He murdered her because she saw something on the internet that he had been accused of murdering Natalie. And she became frightened and she confronted him with it. And he went mad being crazy, and he murdered her. Well, the Peruvians captured him and declared him guilty and put him in prison. And his prison sentence ran for 25 or so years. And recently there was an agreement between Peru and the United States that there could be a temporary extradition to send him up here to the United States. Now, the murder was not in the United States, but there's evidence and enough people swearing who they saw Natalie with the last time, and the Peruvian evidence. But what he's being extradited temporarily to the United States is on some kind of financial fraud. So he hasn't been charged with the murder in the United States yet, but they're hoping to be able to present enough evidence that they can indict him and arrest him again for murder of Natalie. So we're going to watch this a little more closely and see what happens. This mother has been pursuing this for 18 years. Natalie would now be 36. Very sad case. So that is all my news for today. I think that's enough. There's a couple things you really want to watch today, and you can get them on any of the cable stations and the local networks in your area. That's the border crisis. And I'm sure at midnight, a lot of this will be live on your television channels or your streaming channels. So don't forget to tune into that, because you'll want to know what's going on and what our government is doing about it. Let's just pray for everybody involved, because this is not good for anyone. All righty. Money, money, money. It's a rich man's world. Remember that song by ABBA? Well, people are singing it all the time now because they don't know what to do, particularly people that are not extremely wealthy and have lots of different bank accounts and investments in different things. Even they are kind of worried about this with the banking crisis right now and the border crisis, the supply chain crisis. Everything is chaotic in this country. There's more and more anarchy in our country. So, of course, everybody has anxiety. But one of the biggest things about money is the number of people who have money anxieties. I need to have an assistant and a desk to turn my papers. So it's kind of amazing to me how many people have money anxiety. It's like 1 in 3 in our country. And that is horrific, just horrific. So today I want to tell you what some of the signs are and why, and what we might be able to do about it. Number one, anxiety causes a lot of problems with your body and your mind. And money anxiety causes even more severe side effects than other kinds of anxiety, except I think maybe losing a child is right up there with it. Of course, we all know there's other anxieties, but let's talk a minute about the aches and the pains and the avoidance. Aches and pains, you can get pains in your joints, your back, your neck, your arms. You don't want to go exercise. You don't want to do anything because you're so worried about paying your bills or losing all your money in your 401k, which they're all going down now, that you don't know what to do. And instead of paying attention to them, you're avoiding them, and you're just putting them in a file tray, an income and outgoing file tray. Nothing moves from the incoming tray to the outgoing tray. Some of you pay them on the computer, on the internet, and you don't ever even look at your bank or your credit card to put them on there, because maybe your credit cards are maxed out now. You can even go to someplace like Instacart to get your groceries delivered, because maybe you're working from home, you have a side hustle, and you're trying to get out of this spot. You can pay your grocery bill in 4 payments. Do you understand what that's going to do to you if you have to do that? We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But one of the biggest things is trying to avoid those aches and pains so you can move on and try to get out of this mess that is being created by those in the upper echelons of government. How about avoiding your bills? Like I just said, you keep them sitting there on the countertop. Maybe you don't even open them. Maybe you just throw them in the trash right away. And even little tiny decisions have to be made to get you out of this. It might mean cutting back on your grocery bill. Instead of buying that Coca-Cola and chips, maybe you should cross that off your list. You need to just have your healthy food on it. You can't afford it. A lot of this leads to drinking. That was one thing you could cut out on to save money. So look at your bills and see what you can cut down on. Now it's going to be warm again, so you might want to run your air conditioner less amounts of time than normally, because these bills are going to just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. If you can't stop sleeping, thinking about these things, it's going to affect your sleep also. So you might lie awake at night worrying over and over about how you're going to pay the mortgage or your rent payment or your cell phone bill or your electricity or gas. This is not fun. And you know, your anxiety and fear leaks over to your children. And your children, after they've been locked down for 2 years and have just gone back this past year to school, they're having anxiety getting back into the social swing of things. And I'm talking about everybody from preschool up through high school and some into college because they've had to stop college. They might have had to try to get some side hustles to help their parents pay the rent. Everybody in the world and everybody in the United States is not well off, okay? Don't get the idea that there's a division in class, although it's coming closer and closer, and it will be if we don't straighten out this economy. We don't want that. We don't want to have no middle class, which is the largest area of the population. Come on, we need to straighten this out. And you need to let your Congress people and your senators and your state legislatures all know what you think about what's going on. They have got to start concentrating on it. Just in the last 2 days, President Joe Biden stated, yes, it is chaotic in our economic realm right now, as it was chaotic with the border. We are in a crisis in this country, and we are about to lose the middle class. So let's see, what are we going to do to try to get out of it? Or why can't we get motivated to go do something? Well, there's several things that can cause you to have money anxiety and not be able to move forward. And one is a history of deprivation. So we talk about the inner cities and the kids in high school and why they drop out. Well, that's a whole nother conversation on education in our country also. As you know, we have slipped far down the list of most educated young people. So a history of deprivation would be if you grew up with not enough money, quite frankly, and it was hard to pay the bills, and maybe your mom worked. You know, way back in the 60s, we were the first real generation of women who decided to go back to work because they wanted to. Yes, they wanted to. They wanted a career, and they didn't want to be stay-at-home moms. They wanted to have precious, good time with their kids. So they would put them in preschools, or they would get somebody to stay with them, and they would go out and work. And many times when they were working in a new career, their salary was not enough for them to pay for the childcare and save it or really improve the standard of living. But as times went on, the disparity in salaries between men and women was corrected, and now women tend to make far more money than they were making in comparison to the 60s and 70s when they first started out doing this. So that deprivation in youth, where you couldn't go out and buy an ice cream cone with your mom after lunch or after school, that set it in your mind that maybe you would never have enough money. So you need to look at 3 different things. And those 3 different things are reset your mind. Reset your mind and say, this isn't true. You hear these wonderful stories about kids who did grow up with being deprived of having extra money in the house and being able to save and pay for different tutors or different classes they wanted to take. But they have a different mindset, and they've worked on that all their lives. They wanted to be the best in school playing basketball, or the girls wanted to be the best in gymnastics or dance or singing. They suddenly decided they could see their moms going out and doing something different to help their families and give them a little bit of a cushion when times were tough. So you need to reset your brain. And belief, which is another one, your beliefs about money and what it does for you, will help being mindful and help you to set budgets and savings and not live beyond your means while you're struggling to raise your standard of living. Today, I don't know how people are going to get over these thoughts because it is so difficult with the inflation. Many of you have already depleted your savings, your life savings that you were waiting to retire on. So we have a problem with low and unsteady income, and that is not a good sign. So we need to work on that as a country and as a whole, hoping that when you see these numbers of lower unemployment, it really is true, because many of those jobs that come on the market are still jobs that were gotten rid of during the COVID time. So you need to balance the numbers with what's going on. But there are jobs out there, and I subscribe to a couple of them. There's one on LinkedIn that shows you jobs that are available and you can apply through LinkedIn. There's other ones, just Google it, look it up on your favorite information site, and find some job sites to help you find a job. They are on location jobs, and there are jobs that are remote too. So that's the number one first thing you need to do, is find some way to get some money coming in. But with rising expenses, with food and shelter, it's going to be tough. But I want you to continue to be mindful that you can get out of it. If you stay in school and learn different skills, and I'm a big one to support tech schools and what they call blue-collar jobs, plumbers, painters, things like that. They make good livings. You can help your parents, your grandparents, and yourself if you decide to start your own business like that. There are people that start all sorts of companies today. Some of the ladies start house cleaning jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. They grow and they grow, and they have several employees, and they're helping other people as well as their own family. So never be afraid of doing that. One of the other things you want to avoid doing when you're having anxiety is hoarding things. Hoarding things is just going to make your home, your apartment, your house, your little cottage, even you're living in an RV right now or something. If you hoard things thinking you'll use them again, all you're going to do is end up burying yourself in clutter and trash. And you don't want to do that. Some people are looking at expiration dates on food, which is very dangerous, trying to stretch that out and eat it. But you can get all sorts of fungus and mold and things growing on things if you don't pay attention to what's going on. And even canned goods that are expiration date. And if you're cleaning out your cupboards and think you're doing something great for a food bank and you give them expired canned food, you're not doing them a favor. You're making them susceptible to botulism and things like that. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to keep using the same paper napkin over and over, the same paper towel. Or you don't want to, if you're living in a house and you still have everything, well, maybe you want to go out and buy a coffee machine because you think the one that you have now might not work in 2 years. Don't go out and do things like that. Your coffee maker can be replaced if it goes out. You can sometimes even find things like that at a Goodwill store that are in wonderful condition. Don't hoard these things. And don't save paper bags or plastic bags from a grocery store or any kind of bags or boxes. And if you shop on Amazon or you shop on some of these Instacart places and things like that, they bag things up for you. They put things in cartons on Amazon or any of the people who send things out. Don't hoard those things. You'll find yourself walking through a tunnel of used boxes and bags, and it's just going to get to your mind and fill it up and make you feel horrible. It's going to make you maybe turn to substance abuse. You need to be concentrating on your finances now and what's going to happen and how you're going to get out of this. I want you to know that you should do a few more things to help handle all of these scary things that happen when you don't have a job or you have too little income and are thinking about really trying to get yourself out of it. Dig yourself out of it. First, if you need to blow off some steam because you're angry at the world, you're angry at your spouse, you're angry at your kids, you're angry at your friends, you're angry at the government, it's not going to help you to be angry. Of course, if something happens and maybe your spouse, your wife, or your husband did something really stupid and they got laid off of their job, well, of course you're going to be angry. So go ahead and yell and scream at each other, get it over, and then say, okay, let's work together and get out of this. Okay, you loved each other when you got married. Make that love last. And I say, keep God in your life and pray that you'll get some help. And you will get out of this if you do something positive to try to get out of it instead of sitting there being angry and upset and sad and nervous and everything else. So I want you to go out, and if you're going to blow up every time you look at the other person you think is responsible, or you're responsible yourself, or the person that you were working for did this to you, it's no good keeping angry. Go outside and take a walk. Do jumping jacks. I'm a big one for taking a walk. Get away from that argument. Just go take a walk and calm down. Take some deep breaths like I've showed you on some of the other podcasts. Listen to some great music that you like. And I suggest you don't listen to something like Who Shot the Sheriff? Okay, I like the song too. It's got a great beat to it. Not so great of lyrics because nobody's advocating that. Okay, I understand what you're saying. There are some also pretty bad rap songs out there that talk about abuse and self-abuse and death and suicide and all of that. Don't listen to those, even if they're your favorite songs because you like the beat, you like the way the rap's going, you like the way the guitar and the horns are going. Don't listen to that music. Find some soft, inspiring music. One place you can find this is on Calm, or you can go to the music stations and find one, excuse me, find one that has classical music. Oh, classical music. Yeah. Everybody should listen to it once in a while because it has very soothing effects for you. The other one is I talk about praying, and that's what I do. I pray because I am a Christian, and that's what I do. And God has gotten me to this point in my life, and I think that is a good thing. But the other thing you can do, and I sometimes combine them or do them one after the other, is meditation. Meditation is not praying. Meditation is clearing your brain totally of any thoughts or pleasant thoughts like the breeze blowing or the waves gently coming up onto the shore, something like that. Clear your mind of horrible thoughts, evil thoughts, depressing thoughts, sad thoughts, all of that. And that will definitely help you weather the storm immediately. Now, these things can all be taken to do daily and one at a time, but you have to start somewhere. So start with some of those things. And the next thing you want to do is work on a budget. And don't put everything into your budget right now. I want you to just put down your expenses that you have every day, your housing, your food, your clothing. And that will help you see where your money's going. Maybe it's going on your grocery list too much. You need to consider what is necessary and what isn't during this time of crisis. What I like to do when I'm setting a budget is not get down to the nitty gritty when I'm helping somebody. I want them to start doing this 50%. Oh. Oops, sorry. Now I'm talking over myself. How do I? Excuse me while I try to figure out the tech problem. Are you there, Juan? Okay, are we out back on? Okay, Juan? Juan? Okay. So I'm sorry about that. Something happened on my laptop here and it just wouldn't reconnect. I don't know what happened. It just went off and then it started up again and I was speaking over myself. So here we are. I think we're back on. And Juan tells me we're back on. We're okay. Even some of the big people, last night I was trying to watch Fox on Sling on our Roku station. And it wouldn't work. It kept telling me that we didn't have it. So even they have technical difficulties once in a while. And this was on my end for some reason. I just went blank. So here we go back, and I want to tell you about fixing a budget. 50% should be going to your fixed expenses. And your fixed expenses would be something like your rent, your utilities, and your car payments. You don't want to lose your car, so put those in there too. That's 50%. So 30% should be going to your groceries, your entertainment, and your shopping. And 20% should be saved for emergencies, your credit card debt to pay it down, and retirement or savings. For another kind, if you're saving for something special, like a trip or something, okay? Or your kid's college education, that should be 20% at least. So what I want to tell you is, here are some ways you can cut back on these fixed expenses when you're looking at your budget. Try to pay off that car, but it probably has a low interest rate. Some of them, if you do a good trade-in or a good down payment on them, you can get the fixed rate financial charge down to 1%, sometimes less. But of course, during this inflation, sometimes it's gone up to 4%. So whatever your car payments are, try to lower them. Number 2, do not go buy a new car. Negotiate the one you have. If your car is totally falling apart, I understand it would probably be better to go get a car. But don't get a new car. Buy a car that is used from a dealer and it's been totally checked out to make sure it's okay. And they come with warranties. What difference does it make if you're driving a 2023 car and you can buy a 2021 car or a little older that is in perfect condition, has low mileage, and comes with a warranty? But of course, not everybody's in a position like that. So if you're going to a car lot with used cars, you better be sure that they'll give you some kind of warranty. They'll let you test drive it. They'll let your mechanic look at it and all of that. It's not a good time to be getting yourself into debt for a lot, but you do need transportation. I understand. Your utilities, I already told you, use your heat and your air conditioner for fewer hours. I know it's going to get very hot, and I know in the winter we had severe winters everywhere and you needed to use your heat, but try to put those down. See if you can't negotiate with whoever you're renting from and say, hey, look, I can't take your 10% increase. Could you please just give me a break here and take a 5% increase? You might be able to do that with a mom and pop rental place that owns your apartments or your house. It's more difficult to deal like that with a corporation who owns several different apartment locations and homes and things like that. But give it a try. Everything is negotiable. At least everybody should listen to it. Under your 30% for your groceries, I've already told you that too. And I don't know if any of you have done it, but quit buying the chips, the popsicles, this and that. Everybody has to help. Now, I don't want you depriving your kids of good food, but you know, eating some fresh berries is just as much fun as eating a popsicle. If you can afford to buy the fresh, which is a little more most of the time, other than frozen, you'll really have a delightful time with your kids popping those blueberries in their mouth. Try not to buy hot dogs and things like that are prepared foods and have too many chemicals in them. You're going to have hyperactive kids and you're going to gain weight. You don't want it. You need things that are healthy. Now, I am a peanut butter eater, and I like peanut butter, and kids like peanut butter. There are all kinds of peanut butter. You can check and get the ones with the least amount of sugar in them, because they do add sugar to peanut butter on the major brands. You can get natural sugar. It depends on your budget. Natural peanut butter, excuse me. It depends on your budget, but try to get things that are healthy, that have protein in them, and a balanced diet. I know it's extremely difficult right now, and I know some parents have told me that they're skipping meals so their children can eat. You've got to find employment. This is horrible, but go out and go to a food bank. Get help from your community. I don't want anybody skipping meals. This is a horrible time. This happened during the Depression, and I don't care what people are saying. If we're going to go through a recession, we're headed for a depression unless this is straightened out. So you need to straighten out your finances right now. And that 20%, you may have already gone through it. You may have gone through your emergency money. Try not to use those credit cards, but I know you're maxing them out, trying to get everything balanced. And if you have to put off your retirement money right now and you're young enough, you're in your 40s, and you just need a job, think about your retirement later, because maybe your new job is going to help you have a 401k or something. You've got to take care of the here and now first. And I don't care what other people say. You need to do that. So set realistic saving goals. If you figured out your budget and you can put 20% away or something, if you're on that edge, just try to get through till you can get that job. And of course, there is assistance out there, and do not be ashamed to get it, because this is a temporary situation for you. And that's what these different funds are for people like you who want to raise themselves up and take care of their children and their families. Don't take abuse to these things, people. It's not fair. There are hardworking people out there who need to find a job, and the jobs are there, so go get one. Now, if you have student loans, I can't blame you for wanting to go to university, college. But if you racked up student loans and your parents paid them off or helped you pay them off, it's not fair to get your student loans totally taken care of. It's not fair to other people who paid for them. You knew that you were going to be charged money for a loan. A loan is a loan. You pay interest on it, okay? Now, if you were one of these kids that went to school and dragged it on from 4 years to 5 years, and you majored in something like frisbee throwing, and you can't find a job now, shame on you. Education is to help you improve your living standard. It's to educate you, to give you a wider expanse of what's out there in the world. It should be fun, but I'll be damned. Excuse me. I helped my daughter pay for her college. I helped my son when he decided not to go to college. I helped him get his career started. But these kids went out and got jobs. They didn't go for 5 years, 6 years. And I'm not talking about getting an advanced degree to be a doctor or an attorney. I'm talking about just regular college where you keep going through the different classes like astronomy and things like that you never intend to use or find a job doing. So set a realistic realistic desire when you enter college, or go to trade school so you can have a job. Whatever you do, don't panic, and get people in your corner. Like maybe you could have a family member help you out over a rough spot if it really is just a rough spot. I say to families who have kids who don't do anything, live in basements, never look for a job, don't do anything but play games on computers, it's time for them to go. They're not going to pay you rent. They're not going to do anything for you. And it's your fault because you didn't have these kids on the right track to go on. But I suggest you in that now, because you're going to end up living in somebody's basement or in your car if you don't get them out of the house and cut down on your expenses. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of jobs are out there. And I have less than 5 minutes. I just want to tell you about this really great guy who was in the NBA, and he wasn't going to progress in it, and he wasn't going to be good enough to be in it forever. And one night he was really, really good at shooting baskets, and he started coaching NBA players, women's national basketball, NCAA college basketball, on how to set up their shots to get a basket. He knew he had to find another job, but he didn't know what he wanted to do because he loved basketball. So he took something he loved and he started putting it on the internet and all, and word started spreading. And now he has a booming business coaching these people. Even a famous rapper that I didn't know who he was, but he's a famous rapper, called him up one night in the middle of the night and said, look, I need to learn how to shoot. And he meant shooting basketballs, and he had just found him on the internet. And so now he has a very lucrative career. So look at your hobbies, see what you're doing. Otherwise, get on there and look at some of these side hustles with affiliate marketing. Now, find something that's going to pay you more than 2 cents on a sale through your business, or it's not going to help you at all. And you have to beware of scams. There's so many scams out there right now. So be very careful. And if you're going to work for a corporation, be very careful reading the fine print on your contract, what your insurance benefits will be, what your vacation will be, what any of your other benefits you might have. Okay? You need to do that. Read the fine print and do a good job. Keep those jobs, get out there, look, and have a positive mindset. So that's about it for talking about that today. You know what? Since I got my computer problem, I didn't have time to go over something that I really wanted to do, and that is estate planning, even if you're flat out broke. And everybody needs to have an estate planning. And I'll tell you why next week. I'm going to take this program and do it on my podcast for next week, because it's very important. Even if you don't own your own house, you do own some things in your own house, and you have children and you need to provide for them. You need to know who's going to take care of them, for God forbid both you and your spouse have a terrible accident or something. So I will leave you with those thoughts. I'm trying to help you get your life straightened out. I wish you a very good weekend, and I leave you with these words today. Cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.